Howdy y'all, it's Air Sunday. Today we're going to be shooting a Crosman 2400 CO2 powered 22 caliber. Has a UTG 3x9 bug buster on it. Highly modified inside. And it's sporting a TKO lead dust collector. We're going to take 5 shots across the chrony and shoot for a group, 5-shot group. Then we're going to shoot at 80 yards and see what we can do. First, I want to talk a little bit about CO2 and some mods. So we'll go inside to do that.
All right, let's talk a little CO2 here. Now, everybody knows this typical 12 grain cartridges that been around forever. Now, they're pretty good, pretty useful, pretty handy to find. Just about any place that sells anything to do with BB guns, they'll have those at the store. Now, the drawbacks to CO2. One is the cost. The typical, these here, this 40 pack at my local academy is $25. So that's about 65 cents a piece for these. So every time you use one, it's 65 cents plus your pellets. Now, we talk a little bit about the gun. Now, I'm going to use this gun instead of my rifle because it's a little more easier to maneuver around at my bench here. Same internals. All of mine have been modified, and they have been modified inside to open up the valve plus make it flow better to get more power. All of mine have been modified to get more power, except for this gun. I actually did the opposite because I want it to run slower, but that's another story. On the rifle, though, I've gotten it cranked up. Pretty good velocity on it now. You can only get so much velocity out of CO2. CO2 is a self-regulated gas. And what it means is it's always at a constant pressure. And to be able to make it, make your guns run faster, get more velocity out of them, you have to have better flow. Same, I'm going to say it like I've said before on another video, drag racers or race car enthusiasts will understand. If your heads don't flow, you're not making horsepower, right? Same thing in this valve. This valve comes in this is on the end of the valve, letting it into it. When your hammer hits the valve and opens it up, it's got to come out, got to go up, and then go back that way. You can modify and polish it and clean it up and enlarge it and all those things to help get it flow. That'll give you more horsepower, more velocity. Next thing you can do is you can either add one of these. You'll have to add a guide spring and add a screw in here to adjust the tension on the spring. So that way it'll hit the valve a little harder. You can also put a heavier spring in too. Those are a couple things you can do to modify them to get them up, get the velocities up. I want to say that the rifles, CO2 rifles with a standard, I think it's a 16-inch barrel, maybe. I don't remember now what the standard one was. Velocities are around 450 to 500, I believe is what they were. It's been so long since I shot a stock one, I don't remember. But mine's shooting up around 600. But that's all modified. When you modify, what's going to happen though? You're going to use more fuel. So these cartridges won't last as long if you modify them. Okay, so let's talk about putting one of these in. obviously there's a seal that goes on the end of this here, and when you tighten this screw up, you don't over tighten it. Just get it snug enough to seal it up. You over tighten it, you're messing up that seal in the end of the valve. Also, put a little bit of oil on it. You can get like this Crosman Pale Gun oil. There's other companies that make it. It looks like transmission fluid is what it looks like. Either that or some Marvel Mystery Oil. Probably work the same. Once you get it in there, now this particular gun doesn't have a piercing deal, so when you tighten this up, it pierces. What happens when you cock it and fire it? This is the typical valve seat out of this valve. You know, the seat is right here, but what happens is this sharp end right here, when the hammer hits it, it pokes it. So the first shot, don't even put a pellet in. Just cock it, point it at the ground, shoot it. I usually do it twice to make sure it's got the largest, you know, it's hit that thing really good and enlarged the hole as big as it's going to enlarge. Now, once you've got it all loaded up, I want to show you a little graft here. Now this graft is on the internet. You can pretty much find it anywhere. All you need to do is search for CO2 pressure chart, and somewhere this will pop up. Now this was obviously something done by the U.S. Navy. It's even still got the guy's Navy email address on it. Now, as I was saying, CO2 is a self-regulated gas. In other words, it holds a constant pressure. That pressure is limited to temperature. And so if you're outside shooting one day, say it's 80 degrees outside. Well, at 80 degrees, this thing, CO2 has a 969 psi pressure. And, you know, say you're getting ready you want to go squirrel hunting or something. So you got it all sighted in, and then during the week, cold front come in. So that next Saturday you get ready to go hunt. Now it's down to 40 degrees. A 40 degree CO2 at full, 100% full, the pressure is down at 567. That's a lot of pressure difference. So your velocity is going to be super, super low. Now, say you sighted in here at 80, and then you went out to the desert to hunt, and the temperature out there is 100, 110 or something like that. Now the pressure is up there around 1500 psi. Your point of impact is going to be high. So you got to think about that when you're deciding to maybe hunt with it. Always keep that pressure the same, or try to hunt in the same temperatures or whatever you're going to do. If you're target shooting, one of the things on target shooting is you need to keep track of your shot count. You need to find out, set and shoot up until that cartridge is empty. And then you go, okay, well, I need to stop at 20 shots. Otherwise, my groupings aren't going to be any good at all. Because once it starts dropping, you'll know it. You'll just see it stringing straight down. Another thing too is how fast you shoot. CO2, as you shoot it, as that gas is released and it's moving, it gets cold. So when you're target shooting, you should allow X amount of time between shots. That way that the cartridge can have time to recover and warm back up. Because if you shot too fast, you know, everything's gonna get real cold on you. The cartridge is gonna get cold. Your valve is gonna get cold. Some of these new BB full automatic BB pistols and rifles and stuff, I've seen them before. When they go to do a mag dump on them, that the valve froze up because the CO2 was just got so cold that it actually froze up the valve, and it froze it open. You know, froze it while it was open, so it dumped all the CO2 out all at once. So something to remember about CO2. All right, let's go outside and do some shooting. All right. Well, my microphone messed up on me, so I didn't get to talk to what was going on. Yeah, the velocities ended up at an average of 559. The temperature played a role in this because last week when I had this thing out, checking everything, making sure everything was going to function before I made this movie, it was shooting about 600 feet per second. And the temperature was about 20 degrees warmer. So that's showing you that the velocities dropped because of the temperature and the point of impact dropped. And that goes how I was trying to explain in the segment about the chart and stuff like that. So it definitely makes a difference. And we got a pretty good group, not a great group. We actually did a little bit better later on. After I stopped filming, I did some more shooting, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So we're gonna shoot one more here, and we'll go to the next 80 yards. Okay, here we are looking at the 80-yard target. Over the Mustang, beside the dog pen, right beside that tree, that little white square down there. It's about an 8-inch square, something like that. And it did take me 4 shots trying to figure out, since the velocity was a little lower. I'll show you the one. Well, after I got everything filmed, I sat down and shot a bunch of shots with this Crosman Premiers. I have to say, the Premiers were grouping better than the JSBs were. That's at least 20 shots right there, if not more. I didn't keep track of how many it was. Second to the last shot, then that was the last shot, and I knew that this cartridge was going out, so that's where I quit. But yeah, there's like 20 shots right in that little spot there. So we got the plane flying over. Well, that's going to be the end of the video, so thanks for watching, everybody.